of what that we can talk about. But then there is one that we need to base our thoughts on, and that would be the place of insecurity. I mean, can we ever stop talking about it? Where the president says that we are winning a war against criminals, yeah? And he said this, that the nation's security forces are winning the war against insecurity in the Northwest, and he made that statement at the Northwest Peace and Security Summit organized by the Northwest Governors Forum in Katsina State, the capital of Katsina, on Monday. And that takes us to what the topical issue would be today as we jump into the discourse. Right, and they'll be addressing security challenges in Nigeria's northwest, and that conversation is really spanning deeply because quite a number of Nigerians are saying that should we be able to win the war against insecurity within the northwest region, would we be able then to say, or can we say that we have eradicated the menace of insecurity in Nigeria? And others have said that with the same energy that the president has gone to proclaiming, could he also replicate such with equal representation in other regions of the country? Because we cannot also turn a bad eye to saying that we do not know that insecurity is not just ravaging the north alone, but it's ravaging even the east, the south, and every other part or region of the country, Nigeria. The northwest region of Nigeria, though, faces significant security challenges, including banditry, herder farmer clashes, and cattle rustling. Abubakar, it may take decades to eliminate banditry in Nigeria. Now, despite this daunting prospect, there has been some efforts put on the way to addressing these issues, and President Bola Tinubu has emphasized the need for a stable and united region and a peaceful Nigeria. Now, the UNDP-sponsored Northwest Peace and Security Summit is actually aimed at promoting regional cooperation and security, but the summit acknowledged the complexity of the security challenges and the need for a comprehensive approach that considers historical, economic ideology as well as social dynamics. But what are the Northwest region states? The Northwest region, it comprises about 7 states. If my counting would suffice at the moment, one of such would be Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano states, Katsina, Kebbi, Sokoto, and Zamfara states. So these states share cultural, historical, and geographical similarities. But there's been controversies, surrounding the grazing or the Ranching Commission Bill, which quite a number of persons have alluded to be the answer to some of the insecurity issues, especially those that border around the farmer herder clashes and even other security issues at large. But before we jump into all of that, because there's quite a lot to talk about, we'll just try to see how we can run through it already. We have our guest, who's in the person of Comrade Gerald Okachi. He's a human rights activist and a public affairs analyst, is going to be adding his voice in the discourse this morning. And from what I understand, it happens to be a special day for the comrade. Well, Comrade Gerald Okachi, welcome aboard.
Oh, yeah, very good morning to you and wonderful listeners on the best radio station in FCT Abuja, Nigeria.
All right, if the comrade says that, who are we to refute? But anyways, comrade, I understand that today is a special day for you. It's your birthday. happy.
Thank you.
And it seems like there's going to be a little get-together, right? At the orphanage home, right there?
Oh, yes. Somewhere in the council of FCT.
To mark your birthday. Okay. Well, that time would be 4 p.m. if I'm not mistaken, yeah?
Yeah.
4 p.m. Okay. Right. Okay. Yes. Let's see how we can, wrap up things and fix things together, and hopefully, of course, celebrate with you. But happy birthday to you, comrade. And I'm hoping and trusting that this birthday would be a remarkable change for you as well as the country, Nigeria, at a time like this.
Oh yes, certainly.
Right.
It's a privilege and opportunity to, review my resistance so far and possibly look at how I can improve in my commitment to and improve the society and service to God and humanity.
Exactly. Well spoken. Now let's jump into it. I mean, we're talking about addressing security challenges in Nigeria's northwest, as the president had in a summit hosted by the northern governors right there, made a very, very strong statement where he had said that he had put in place, the northern, people of northern origin in places of security heads. Why? Because they understand the terrain and they have knowledgeable and a sizable knowledge of what's going on in terms of insecurity. As one of our family members who called earlier during the newspaper review segment, the pages, had said, Selassie had said, the president is seemingly exonerating himself and saying, look, I've taken myself out, that's why I put your people in there so that they can do the needful. But he also noted that the war against insecurity in Nigeria is beginning to yield results as a result of some of these moves that he has made. But on the other hand, we've had the Sultan of Sokoto, who's in the person of Mohammed Saad Abubakar, saying that it may take decades to eliminate banditry in Nigeria, right? And there has been some talks, about the need for the Gretchen Commission bill to be signed. From what I understand, I think it has gone into second reading, but we've seen, some groups of persons who identify as holding fort the interest of the herders, coming out to say that this is not a bill that they are in support of. Well, the controversies surrounding that also include the fact that the bill aims to address herder-farmer clashes and cattle rustling, but it has received mixed reactions as supporters argue it will reduce clashes, promote livestock development, and enhance security, while the opponents are saying that the opponents are afraid of government-backed land grabbing and marginalization of local communities. Now, if you put all of these together, what will be the concerns for you? I mean, with some of these things that the president has said, as well as what the Sultan of Sokoto State has also said in this regard. Are we indeed winning this war against insecurity?
Well, addressing these controversies requires a balanced approach,
right,
that considers the diverse interests of all stakeholders, ensures sustainable land use practices, and incorporates robust mechanism for monitoring and enforcement. You also look at effective dialogue and participatory decision-making processes.
Right.
They are very essential to mitigate conflicts and promote a possible equitable outcome. Now, looking holistically at the comments of our highly reverenced, respected Sultan of Sokoto, it's not out of place. He's speaking from the position of authority and information. And even without him saying it, to be very candid and honest, it's a fact that every common reasoning person will admit. Because looking at the current structure that we have in our nation today, one may say that it gives room to all this, wherein that what works in certain parts of the country does not work in another parts of the country, where there is no population control. You have access to give as many children, give birth to as many children as you like, without taking responsibility for such. You ended up creating a marginaries, having plates going around begging, and the children that have right to education are being sent to the forest, to the bush to go and care for animals. It tells you that certainly it may not just take decades, it may take centuries, it may take, if not a millennium, for us to tackle such a thing. But I know that government knows that no matter how far they have gone in a wrong direction, it's not far to review some of our policies. Today we have Child Right Act that made it mandatory for every child to be in school. That legally clears all the fundamental rights of a child, of a Nigerian child. I tell you for a fact, in the Northeast, over 65% of the children there are not benefiting even up to 20% of these rights. Rights to shelter, right to good food, right to education, right to expression and freedom. These rights are not being completely exercised or allow the kids there. A situation genders are considered. You have the male child, you give the male child the plate to enter the street. Then sometimes the female child are not even allowed to go to school. Only the elite. And even if you go to school, there's a limitation to that education. Now, talking about the controversial.
Just before you jump into that, but let me also point your eagle's eyes into some of the thoughts that is saying that the president might just be somewhat one-sided in his submission, where he had made clear that, look, I have put the leaders in terms of insecurity, the places of the defense, army chiefs and all of that, I've given it to your northern people so that you can tackle banditry. But then we know that we also have security challenges in the east, we have it in the west, and all of that, and some are saying that it is quite unfair, that why shouldn't such summits also be held in these other places to have this conversation? Do you share in that thought?
Oh yes, I do share in the thought that such conversations or engagements should even commence from northwest. You see, the struggle, insecurity we face today, the escalated insecurity we face today generated from there, and started escalating to other regions with different formations and agitations. But notwithstanding, the current structure we have today, makes it possible for any leader who struggle for performance. We easily find a blame game to hold on, excuse to hold on, and that is what is giving room to maybe talks or comments of pushing indigenous people to manage their affairs, especially with regards to insecurity. And that is what even generated the argument of state policing. You understand? To see how all these things can be handled, and I believe in that direction we can easily tackle it. If you recall, during Jonathan Goodluck Ebele administration, he used a certain army chief, I think something in Hejrika or thereabout, to tackle the insecurity. Then he was at an early stage. There was misconception, there was a misinformation, misunderstanding, and the deliberate information, as I may put it, that the army chief then was looking at ethnic cleansing and targeting the youth from that region. You understand? Now, leaders have learned from that. In order not to be tagged, look at what happened recently at Abia State. I think on the May 30th, when some of these prescribed people, started claim that we are doing Biafra Remembrance Day. Instead of going a peaceful way, they started killing Nigerian soldiers, especially people from that region. If it had been that many people they killed there come from another region, it will generate another argument. So that informs the idea of pushing their people to manage the situation so that it will reduce ethnic tension, ethnic rivalries, ethnic argument that can lead to or metamorphose into something else. Now, I must say that this administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is showing a political will to tackle insecurity, and I must admit that so far we have experienced improved security with regards to banditry and the terrorism, unlike the previous governments before this administration.
Okay.
Today, we are having less of issues that we recorded under Jonathan and the Buhari regime.
Right.
So
right.
What you see today with regards to security is either pickets of attempts by already disarmed and enchanted these criminals. So that is on that. But I support that the administration or any government to continue to push indigenous people to manage their affairs. It will reduce propaganda. It will reduce lies that can cause ethnic tension that is very, very dangerous to our collective coexistence. It will reduce a lot of things. So it's a welcome idea.
All right.
It's a welcome idea.
Very well said. Then let's open the phone lines and just hear what Nigerians have to say about, what the Sultan of Sokoto had said, as well as what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has also said, where he has said that we are winning the war against insecurity, according to him, and we are also winning the war against criminality. Some share thoughts with him, others do not share the thought with him as well. Well, opening the phone line 0907-353-0044 is that number to call. The other number is 0908-766-8888. The WhatsApp portal number is 0909-705-4450. These are the numbers that you can call, and as well as send a message to connect with us in the studio, letting us in to your 2 cents as to what you think about the issue of addressing and tackling the insecurity in our dear country. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Udo. This is Salami from Central.
Welcome aboard. Let's get into it.
I greet our guest.
Okay.
You see, I commend our guest. Like I've always said, you cannot sit in Kubwa, Gogolada, and be giving beer parlor statistics that is not verified. But when we are giving you statistics with facts and data from the security agencies of the Nigerian Army, from the Defense Ministry, from the DM Army, from the Bureau of Statistics, and other relevant agencies that shows that security has improved substantively in the last 1 year. And you see witness whenever issues happen. Before now, you see it take months. Sometimes we don't even hear of it. When someone is kidnapped, we have to wait for 10, 15 months. Ransom is being raised. But today, when there is such, you see the proactiveness from the military, from the police, from other relevant agencies, and some in hours, some in days, they are already rescued. A perfect case example is that of the general that was killed in Abuja. Let's after police swung into action. Most of them were eventually unraveled to be self-kidnapped, but we turn a blind eye to all of these achievements. I want to amplify when we hear that somebody was killed somewhere. Well, like I said, we can criticize, but there is a very thin line between criticism and hatred for your country. And most of the opinions I hear most of the time are purely hatred, laced with political biases, and people who are here to get over the electoral defeat, the traumatic, the post-traumatic electoral defeat of 2023. A lot of people have not gotten over it. So when they speak, they are speaking as PDP members, they are speaking as Labour Party members. Thank you so much.
Al-Amin, thank you for that one right there. Well, the conversation is still trending right here, and we're looking at addressing the security issues, especially within the Northwest, as the president has made a very strong statement. And we still have our guest in the person of Comrade Gerald Okachi. Comrade, how do you respond to some of the thoughts from Al-Amin?
Just like I said earlier, there's of course a significant improvement with regards to our security task force, how they rescue all the students. This current administration is responding. It's just like building a house or building as we may put it in the form of a day, building a room. It's not done in one day. It's something that takes a step by step, and I must give them thumbs and quotes in that. Then looking at the controversial surrounding the grazing or ranching commission bill, of course, you and I know that it has generated significant controversy due to its implications for land use, environmental conservation, rights of various stakeholders. But some of the key points that encapsulate these controversies you may look at is the land rights and ownership, wherein you say farmers and ranchers often fear losing their land to either ranchers who might gain a grazing right because of this bill. The tension, especially in pronounced areas where there's land scarce and agricultural practices are diverse. Areas like, for example, you go to the south, they are not, they don't have that big, vast land as you have in the north. But then the topography and climatic factors between those areas are then. Then you look at indigenous and local communities. These groups also worry that the bill might encourage on their traditions or traditional land and disrupt their ways of life. They look at environmental concerns, that is also part of the argument, that is the degradation and overgrazing. Many critics argue that increased grazing can lead to maybe call it land degradation, soil erosion, and the loss of a lot of properties, if not properly managed. Then you look at the conservation efforts that environmentalists put in place, that is with regards to these bills. He contends that the bill might undermine conservation efforts aimed at protecting fragile ecosystem that almost globally everybody is battling with now. You come to the economic implications of it. Ranchers and those in the livestock industry support the bill because they believe that it will enhance their profit, it will enhance, it will expand their business and provide more grazing land and reducing conflicts over land. But then you look at agricultural output in this struggle. You see that farmers fear that the bill might prioritize grazing over crop cultivation, which potentially may affect food security and agriculture. So all these things need to be cleared. Then you look at the legal and the policy issues. Recently we saw a National Assembly member, making bills that are really controversial because it's controversial because of the choice of words used. You understand? If the bills look at it critically and honestly, it makes sense. But the right use of words, you understand, would have been reduced some of the tension because
the presentation of the bill. The presentation, the content.
You understand? But making it look like as cows are part of our constitution that requires constitutional protection. It gives a lot of signal and different interpretation. Now you look at regulating the framework. There are concerns about how the bill will be implemented and regulated. Effective monitoring and enforcement certainly will be critical to prevent misuse and conflict with regards to some of things we have seen, especially from the National Assembly aspect. Now you look at equity and fairness, ensuring that the bill fairly addresses the needs and rights of all stakeholders, including smallholder farmers and marginalized communities. These are some of the major points of contention you look at. Then you you try to navigate it with the social and political dimensions. Community tension. The bill has the potential to exacerbate tensions between different line user groups, leading to social unrest. Political maneuvering. You know, you look at political interests and lobbying by powerful stakeholders. This can influence the bill provision potentially. You know, these are some of the things.
If you put all of it together, if you put all of it together, what comes to mind, you know, in that regard? Do you think that would have helped in solving at least the part of insecurity that borders around farmers and herders, which of course has economic implications?
I cannot, because of the interests involved in presenting the bill, and that makes it the presentation wrong. I think the best way we can go about it is to go back to some of resolutions we have had with regards to Confab 2014, APC Confab, the one that was led by then Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, and some of the resolutions we have had in part, because all these fears and challenges have been correctly and carefully been captured in the resolutions. Okay. You understand? If we get these resolutions, you know, and because I've seen that some of the resolutions are going through National Assembly in form of constitutional amendments. I'm a constitutional amendment or review. You understand? You see the way bring it in one word, and the one that they find it difficult to implement through the National Assembly, like the local government autonomy. You see, maybe Attorney General trying to give his legal force, you know, to see how they can implement it without absorbing anybody. But then, if they go back to this report, these resolutions made, the challenges with regards to grazing, ranching, farmers are carefully tabulated there. Let's take, for example, in poultry, which are involved in. In poultry today, before the advance of poultry, every room have a local chicken. That's also one way or the other, it was not even giving profit to the owners as regards to the poultry we have today. But because we are not put your birds in check, it will go into the farm and the possible peak grace of people, you know. But then there are struggle, there are issues. But immediately as improvement with regards to that aspect, you see many people indulge into poultry, where you have more meat, more profits, more control environment. You go to the piggery, you see the same thing happening there. You understand? If we can put all these things together as a jigsaw, especially with regards to the cow that we have, Nigeria today is not even in top 20 in the world that graze cows or cattle. You understand? You look at those countries that are advanced in those areas, what we are they doing? It's ranching. It means that to produce more milk, produce more margarine or butter, produce more beef, and so on and so forth. It generates more profit to the owners, you know, give a clean environment and working relationship, generate employment, you know. In fact, it has a lot to do with benefit all parties than what the old way of doing things that is causing security threats and causing us unrest.
Well, in line with that, would you also want to assent your voice to some calls to the president saying that, look, maybe it's time we sacked the service chiefs for non-performance? Or do you think that it is about improving, you know, whatever effort has been on ground in tackling some of these and addressing insecurity? You cannot change a winning team, a winning formation, because the service chiefs we have today are doing very well. If you are not doing very well, you cannot see an improved security system we are seeing today. Right. You understand? You know, I see that any call to ask for their sack is very mischievous, and I see that those that are calling for their sack honestly do not like our nation, because if you compare to from the time they took in, I mean, of course you must look at antecedents, where they are coming from. Those that hosts were before they came on board. You look at the results so far, you cannot compare.
So sacking them, are we looking at going to our old ways of fear and other things? Today, many of Nigerians can easily travel both in the day and night without panicking for issues. You understand? What you see today with regards to insecurity are pickets of issues, and anyone that you hear today receive maximum attention. That's at most 48 to 72 hours. You see proactive measures, not like in the past where issues will happen. 1 week we are still. In fact, it will take days to even set up committee, which is not necessary when it comes to security challenge.
Okay.
So you can't change a winning team. You can't change a winning team. Rather, you improve on it.
Okay, you can't change a winning team, but you rather improve on it. Well, we are not changing our numbers anytime soon. Rather, we will improve by using the instrumentation of my voice to herald the conversation already. 0907 353 0044 is that number to call. The other number is 0908 766 8888. And the WhatsApp portal number is 0909 705 4450. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Yes, good morning to you.
Elder Onaja is my name.
Elder Onaja, welcome aboard. Let's get into it.
Yeah, you are talking about the insecurity in Nigeria.
Yes.
You see, we security experts, we have advised the government the way out. They have pumped a lot of money to military defense, to police, right from the very time. But insurgency continues. You know, so they have taken over half of the local government in Niger State now. Sitting down there, do what they want. We have told the government the way out. You see, Nigeria police, Nigeria army can never fight insurgency. Insurgency war is a guerrilla war. A guerrilla war, people to fight guerrilla war, they are a special force. And then how do you form a special force? Carry the young men from army, young men from police, Navy, Air Force, carry them go to Jaji, Kaduna State. Somebody that's some retired general, if you don't want a special force from outside, there's some retired general, something like a Federica, General Ngwe, and the other general, they are trained by special force. You carry these children, carry these boys to Jaji, they will train them for special force for 3 months. And the special force is headed by Colonel in army, report directly to parents of the country. You don't report to Minister of Defense, you don't report to Chief of Army Staff. And then the equipment, the special force, if they train a special force or they bring a special force from abroad to train a special force in Nigeria, they are going to link him with their own communication in that country. Because the communication we have in Nigeria now, this communication mark, anything 20 kilometers in the back can never communicate. So if the country train you as a special force, they are going to link you with their own things. And then the equipment where a special force is using, they can't give it to any army in the country to handle.
All right, Elder.
So if they need it, let me round up. You see, something like Nigeria, they have a special force. That's why I don't hear insurgency there. Cameroon, they have. Chad, they have. But they want to bring a special force last time to train our soldiers. But the northerners that they prevent them, so they don't want anything. Are we going to continue at this? All what they are pumping to insecurity in Nigeria, it can't work.
All right,
because people to fight insurgency, they are guerrilla work here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nigeria.
Thank you. Well, Comrade Gerald, I mean, you've heard Elder Onaja. He has been talking about this for quite some time, right there, talking about the need for a special force. But might I also bring this to your, eardrums? The fact that something happened, in Shiroro local government area of Niger State, where internally displaced persons right there are lamenting the terrorists have turned their communities to their permanent base, slaughtering their chickens and pounding the yams they kept in their stores, right? And this is not the first time that this is happening in Niger State, right? Sometime in 2023, August, if I'm not mistaken, bandits went on a killing spree in Niger. In fact, at that time, it was more like go to the farm and you die. That was what it felt like, in August of 2023, where across the 25 local government areas of the state, either as individuals or cooperative societies, residents plant crops like yam, rice, maize, millet, soya bean, and sugarcane, while also engaging in animal husbandry and fishing, right? The people of Niger State are predominantly farmers, as we all know. Males, female, children, and adults are deeply involved, right? And we felt like go to the farm at that point in time and your life is threatened. Just recently again, at least 2 soldiers sustained injury when terrorists attacked a military base in Tagina, Rafi local government area of Niger State. And, this is just what we are seeing. That will be on Monday. June 10 of 2024. That was a Monday, yeah, and all of that. So when we keep seeing all of these repeatedly, happening, and we still say that we are indeed winning the fight against insecurity, and we have these bandits gaining momentum and breaking into houses, not just the houses. It seems as though they are being sent by their sponsors to certain people just to end or delete them from the surface of the earth. And yet we also know that there's a place of information gathering. And Nigerians are saying, now why are we always reactive rather than being proactive? And that these people are not hard to identify, especially using the lens of security personnel who have been trained to combat some of these issues. What would be your thoughts in this regard?
Well, I think the current administration is tackling it in the best way they can. And my thought is that restructuring or possible state police will certainly handle some of these internal issues. You look at those criminals camping at their communities, dictating how they run their affairs, hosting flags and terrorizing those areas. That's because we are finding it difficult, taking our professionals, from different regions to go there to engage them. One, they have already mingled with the people. There's hardly 2 or 3 families that you enter in a community that in one way or the other they are not related in such areas where they are domiciliary with. So it will be a case of me against the world. You engaging them will give different interpretation by the society, especially those in those areas. That's why we are advocating for regional security or possible state security.
Right.
Yeah, if you think what is happening in your area is not too good with you, and you have the prosecutorial authority, unlike what we have today, that you arrest before you prosecute, you will need to either hand over to the police to prosecute, or maybe Attorney General of the Federation coming on board with the Ministry of Justice. You understand? If state government have prosecutorial powers with regard to state policing, some of these things will be nipped on the bud. You recall that about either 3 or 4 years ago, the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, that is Governor, His Excellency Governor Emmanuel Odom, there's a video that trended where he was lamenting bitterly that he arrested some criminals, parading themselves as headers, because the Nigerian headers we know are very peaceful, very, very cooperative, very, very social, accommodating and loving. But then these criminals, there are reports that some of them come from those sub-Saharan areas. Then he caught these guys with AK-47 and some sophisticated weapons and handed them over to the police. The video was in circulation there, and it was a lamentation that in less than 48 hours, those criminals he caught with his vigilante group he set up in the state, we are released. So if there was a state policing, and they have prosecutorial powers, unlike what we have today, regional security like Amoteku, Bubago, and most of the things we have. Those ones, they don't have prosecutorial powers. Whatever criminal you catch, you must hand them over to the police for prosecution. In fact, no matter the level of investigation you do, once you hand them over to the right authority, they will start their investigation afresh. So these are some of the challenges they are facing. Once they have that prosecutorial powers, you look at the Hisba and other security firms we have along the regional lines. They have prosecutorial powers. Some of these things will end.
Okay.
You can't tell me that as the governor you will be comfortable that somebody will host flag in your state. You can't tell me as a monarch you will be comfortable to have criminals, terrorizing your kingdom. You must do something, but then their hands are tied. No matter the effort they put in, it must be channeled to the problem. Just like you issue of a generating power. No matter how you generate, until this administration came on board, no matter how you generate, you must put it to the national grid. But today, states have been encouraged, local governments have been encouraged to generate power and so give it to their people.
Well, I'm being encouraged. I'm being encouraged to also get into the WhatsApp portal now so that we can hear from other family members. I see this one is coming from James from Suleja. He says, bandits killed May Dabino in Damusa local government area, killing villagers with so many still missing and reportedly abducted. Over 50 persons, including 4 policemen and 2 local vigilantes, were killed. A number more missing when other villages in Kankara local government area were attacked and ransacked last week. In the first week of June, Dusima and Safana local government area experienced their own share with over 30 persons killed and many others missing. This is in Katsina state alone in the past 3 weeks. 2 weeks ago, the Zamfara state governor came to Abuja to lament about the frustrating approach and attitude of the security agencies. Well, he first cried out 2 months ago. 2 days ago, residents in some communities in Gusau, the capital, cried out about having bandits kidnapping attacks. They have been abandoned too. Well, there are so many communities in Niger State under the control of bandits. Areas like Arena in Shiroro have been completely overrun, but yet these are isolated incidents. The claim that banditry has been reduced to just pockets is a farce. But let sycophants continue to observe their table manners. Okay, now, and this one here says, good morning, Eagles FM. All right, he says, I'm Yusuf from Abuja. It says, going to take 10 years to end insecurity or insurgency, says Sultan. What this means is that Sultan knows the root cause, the people behind it, and their capabilities to know the length of time banditry will last, so he should come out clean on this. He should rather prefer a solution in that gathering by telling the northern governors to their face that there is no coordination and collaboration among them, similar to what the Southwest is doing. It is on record that some northern traditional rulers in the north were accused of involvement in banditry, and he didn't say anything about that. This shows lack of sincerity and political will to end the insurgency. Our leaders should stop being hypocritical when proffering solution to our problems. Yusuf, you've got that to say. You're saying that from Abuja, but it is also not noteworthy to correct that the Sultan said it may take decades, right? He wasn't very, very sure as to saying 10 years, right? More like you submitted. But yes, your thoughts are very valid. There's no smoke without fire, if you ask. But then we see this one too. It says, good morning, UD. Okay, thanks for a good job. Thank you too. Still, Yunusa Dentani Ibrahim from Abaji. If we want to tackle insurgency in the northeast or Nigeria at large, federal government should do away with issues of repentant bandits. He who killed should pay the price of expenses. Federal government also do the needful to reduce hardship. Parents should play a cardinal role by giving their children moral training. Some parents don't care to know the work their children do for living. They don't care to restrict the movement of their children irrespective of age or status. UD, sometimes ago, when I was kidnapped, the parents of this bandits, we're calling them blessing them, which signified that the parents don't even know what the work their children are doing, so parents should play a vital role. Lastly, the district heads should do the best within their jurisdiction to feed security agencies on any criminalistic behavior. Thanks, Yunusa Dantani Ibrahim from Abaji right there. Yunusa has raised quite a strong point right there. And yeah, thanks for that. Well, now, finally, I'll just bring this to you. And then, of course, I'll get back to you, Comrade Gerald. This one is coming from All right, it's coming from Honorable Edward. Says, good morning, UD. All right, states his name all the way from Apo. It says, the issue of insecurity in our country is far beyond appointing those that are affected into security agencies because most of them are behind it. I appreciate Mr. President for the bold decision taken so far about insecurity, but we have to put opposition out of this issue because it stated even when the PDP was in power and they failed to handle it during their time. Okay, says Open Grazing is contributing almost 60% of insecurity in Nigeria. Oh, okay. Mr. President should sign ban on open grazing bill immediately to reduce insecurity in the country because these herders have been behind the killing of so many people, even in my state, Benue State. They said this in the public without being arrested. Right. Thank you to Senator Taitazam, the moving off the open grazing bill banning. All right, thanks, he says right there. All right, but also to add to what he had said, the Sultan of Sokoto had come out to saying that those who are indeed engaged in the killings of farmers where we have the herder-farmer clash are not Fulanis. They are not herders. They only, carry themselves about, maraude about, as though they were herders, but they are not herders. But anyways, comrade, I'd like you to put an icing to the cake already in maybe 1 minute or two. What would be your final take, in this regard, where the president had made a huge statement right there and his submission that we are winning the war against banditry, and the Sultan of Sokoto too adding his voice and saying that it might just take, decades for us to come out of the woods on this one.
And there's no way you enter into demolition that you will not see debris from your actions. I certainly agree with the Sultan of Sokoto because, like I said earlier, he spoke from position of authority, from position of knowledge and understanding. And of course, antagonizing him or asking him to mention names, I don't think that if he has information that will be helpful with regards to ending banditry, security and otherwise, that he will be struggling to deliver it at the appropriate time. He will not come to the media just like many people are organizing to begin to say Mr. A or B is involved. Right. There are channels of information, and then he has limit to what he can do as a monarch.
Right.
And seen as a spiritual leader, with regards to Muslim community.
All right, let's put a cap to it. If not 30 seconds, if you can, for want of time. Yeah.
Yes, having said that, I think we are on the path of progress. Honestly speaking, we're on the path of progress. But the best that we can do for our nation is to restructure our nation or make it to go on to, just like we have gone back to our old national anthem. Let's go back to where we were when the national anthem was there, and I'm sure a lot of this will improve on.
All right, we appreciate
because we have learned our lesson.
Yeah, appreciate that from you. Appreciate that from you, Comrade Gerald Okachi. Thank you for taking out time on your special day to have this conversation with us. You say it's going to be 4 p.m. Okay, in Buhari. Feels good. Congratulations and happy birthday to you. Have a blissful year, because it's a new year for you, though.
Thank you.
Right. Well, some of the reforms that since this administration got into power has been security reforms, military operations. There's been launching operations here and there, several operations to combat terrorism. Community engagement as well has been there, where the government has emphasized the importance of community engagement and dialogue in addressing some of these issues, especially the farmer-herder clashes and banditry that has been somewhat prevalent, and security personnel deployment. The administration has deployed additional security personnel to hotspots across the country, including the northeast and northwest regions. And finally, of course, the international cooperation, where Nigeria has strengthened its collaboration with neighboring countries and international partners to address, transnational security threats such as terrorism and arms trafficking. Well, we are hoping that with all of these efforts shown, there should be some promises in terms of fighting insecurity and